Good evening. So we'll call to order the meeting at 7:01. And the first one is Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you. Roll call. Kevin?
Commissioner Shu,
Yes, I'm here.
Vice Chair Gopal,
Present.
and Commissioner Davis.
Present.
And the Chair, Nisha, is on her way.
And Commissioner Stanek is absent today.
Okay, thank you. So the first agenda item is the approval of minutes. Let's have it. Let's go through if anyone has any comments or corrections on that one.
Nope.
Wow, that's good. That's great. So typically somebody passes motion on this one?
Okay, I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of August 1st, it's 2019.
I second it.
It's awesome. So it's unanimously approved. Or is it, it's all full, right? It's all. It came in, I believe. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. So now the next agenda item is on the oral communication. So again, thank you for the folks who already filled in the blue form here. And in case if you had to fill it in, please, you can fill it in. And let's get started with the. Sorry.
Oral communications are for only something that is not on the agenda.
Perfect.
So if it's an agenda item, you'll have an opportunity to speak then.
Thank you.
So,
Thanks for
yeah.
reminding. And all of them are not on agenda, right? This one, I haven't checked it whether it is agenda or not, but let me. Oh, everything is for the dog park. But that's on the old business, right? Anyway. Oh, I see. Got it. Okay, so all of them are. So I haven't checked it. So if all of them are related to the off-leash park, then I think we'll wait until you get to the business, right? Excellent. Written communications. I've seen some of them, but I'm not sure the action for it. It's here. Typically, what actions? I was about to ask Nisha too on this one. What actions we typically do?
Just say that you guys have read and accepted the communications, and it'll be uploaded for public record.
Okay, perfect. So we did receive a couple of written communications on different topics, and we all read absolutely. And then how it responds, some of them we are responding it individually, the director and others, and if it's all in public too, so you can take a look at it and refer to it. Thank you. So let's go on the old business. This is about the off-leash area for the Jollyman Park dog. Off-leash area trial survey results. I'm not sure. Yeah. Jeff.
Okay. Good evening. While she's getting set, Jeff Melkus, Director, Parks and Recreation. You might recall in March, City Council approved the trial at Jollyman Park for a dog off-leash area. This is a non-fenced area that dogs could run during the last 2 hours that the park is open. However, they asked us to ensure before implementing it that there would be a significant outreach, and that is where we've gotten to today. So what we'll be looking for council to do, or for commission to do, is to give us direction in case there are any red flags that come up in terms of the off-leash. So with me is Recreation Supervisor Jenny Coverman, who will take you through the outreach effort and the results of the outreach in this survey.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. As Jeff said, I am here tonight to present the results of our community outreach and survey for the dog off-leash area at Jollyman Park. Just to kind of recap where we've been over the last year, it was about a year ago that the Parks and Recreation Commission recommended approval of the trial to City Council with the following suggestions. That there are clear, well-defined signage about the trial, the affected areas and the times. The trial should run through the summer months. that we look and survey the area that the trial would take place in, research pop-up parks, set a self-monitoring standard for cleanliness, and focus on the community building benefit of the dog off-leash trial. Fast forward to March, and City Council agreed to put the DOLA trial in the work plan and approved moving forward with their own recommendations. And their recommendations included completing another survey and holding additional outreach events to ensure that all community members had the opportunity to voice their opinions. They wanted larger temporary signage than was given as an example from the city of Mountain View, and wanted to ensure that there was proper enforcement of the dog off-leash area. So in the middle of July, we put a link to a web page on our city site for all the information regarding the DOLA. It was also on the homepage banner and the news item. The survey was available for the month of August. 618 people completed the survey. Community input opportunities were held at Jollyman Park twice during the month of August, one a weekday evening and one on a Saturday morning. And postcards were mailed to everyone who lived within a quarter mile of Jollyman Park, which is a little over 1,100 people. And lawn signs were put up throughout the park. And both the lawn signs and the postcard had the information about the community input days as well as where they could find the survey. A multimedia marketing campaign was also done via Facebook and Twitter and the various avenues that the city uses. So this is a map of the proposed dog off-leash area at Jollyman. This is the area that was originally suggested by the advocacy group. It was evaluated by some Parks and Recreation staff as well as the ground supervisor who is responsible for the maintenance. And the original area did go all the way over to the dirt of the baseball field. We made that a little smaller and pull it a little farther out of the outfield for the baseball field. It's still a little over half an acre in size. And we did decide that we thought this was the best location for the park because it's away from the busy streets, it's away from the playgrounds. If you want to walk the little loop trail in the park, you're still a good distance away from the dog off-leash area, and it is fenced on two sides by the adjacent properties. So onto the survey results. I will just go over the most popular answer for each of the questions. 90% of those who responded do live within the city of Cupertino limits, and 52% of those live within a half a mile of Jollyman Park, which is about a 10-minute walk. 89% do visit occasionally or frequently, and most do visit in the early or late evening. We did give respondents 3 choices on what types of activities they enjoy at Jollyman. Walking with dogs and walking, the top 2, followed by recreational play and using the playground. And 69% of those who responded do own a dog. Would you take your dog to the Jollyman off-leash area? If it was implemented, 66% did say yes, and 75% did feel that the location in the park was an appropriate spot for it. Again, most would visit the park every day for a dog off-leash area in the late evening to dusk time frame. Based upon your knowledge of park use and this proposal, would you support establishing the area on a trial basis at Jollyman Park? 78% of those who took the survey did say yes. Greatest concerns, again, respondents had a choice of, they could pick 3 things, the biggest ones being safety, dog conflicts, cleanliness, as well as dogs getting loose. And those are things that we address in our criteria for the park. There was an area to fill in for comments. We did have over 200, I believe 232 comments written in. We didn't include them because they'd be super tiny on the screen. We did read all of them. About 138 of them were for the park and 94 were against the park. And so we pulled out the common themes, both for and against. The common themes for the park were that it does build community, it provides socialization for the dogs as well as the owners, and it does, by having the trial, it gives the dog owners a chance to prove that they are responsible and will enforce the rules in the dog park. And some of the concerns against the park were safety, aggressive dogs, fear of dogs, kids that are scared of coming to the park because of them, owners who don't have control, how we're going to monitor it and enforce the rules, the cleanliness, and the potential damage to the field. So that's the survey itself in a nutshell. We do recognize that this survey was not perfect and it had some limitations, and it was a self-selection survey. Respondents were required to answer all the questions, and that was something that our Public Information Office was interested in, collecting all the data for all the questions. We did have a mistake in question number 10, where we had changed the format of it, and in changing that, did not notice that we left out an option to check that you were not a dog owner as an answer to that question. There was another concern that question 13 was forced people to respond in a positive way, even if they might not be for the dog park. As a result, we did not include that question in our results that we have shown today. And there were some concerns that the enthusiasm of the advocacy group might taint the survey. So we have created some criteria for the trial evaluation, and what we've come up with is an excessive disregard for the posted rules, and those rules are like your dog leaving the off-leash area, letting your dog off-leash before it gets to the area, not cleaning up after your dog, not having a dog license, which is something we have in the rules. Excessive complaints from neighbors and park users would be trash, parking concerns, noise, interference with the youth groups who have permitted out those, who have use permits for those fields that are out there, and then turf damage and maintenance concerns. And we do plan going forward with a trial, we would have signs around the perimeter of the area with all the rules, with the phone numbers of code enforcement, sheriff, and animal control for anybody to call if they need to. We plan to have a part-time staff out there during the off-leash hours to kind of monitor and see how it's going, and then come back to you in March and July with an update on how it would be and how it's going.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Do we have any clarifying questions from the commissioners? Again, these are clarifying questions. Go ahead.
Yep, sorry, I do have a couple of them. One is that how many of the total respondents, it says 90% is the percentage, but what's the total number of respondents to the survey?
618.
618?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and next question is, you said on the comments, you said 134 and 94, correct? 134 for?
Yes, it's.
No
I don't
open
have that
comments?
figure
Okay,
on my
it's
notes,
around
but
90.
it's something around 138 and 94 or something like that. 138 for, 94 against, somewhere around that.
Okay, and what does self-selection means in the?
It means that it was their choice to fill out the survey.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's all I have.
Great.
Okay. So I'm curious, are there any statistics on the Mary Avenue Dog Park? Sorry to dump that on you. Whether you know how many people use that, how often, any issues there? No, none at all. Okay. I know it
Do
well.
you know that?
I can't recall any survey data off the top of my head, but we can certainly look for it.
Okay, just curious. And was there any further research done on any of the pop-up or mobile dog parks?
So we did look at some of the mobile dog parks. It's definitely more of there's more of a cost involved with that as far as buying the fencing, the staff to put it up, and you would be moving it, or the thought behind that is that the park would move, and it would be at one park for a certain period of time and move to another. We are looking at that for more of, on the council work plan, is looking at, for the field use study, is looking at the current fields that we have as potential dog areas, and so we were looking at the pop-up parks for that study.
Okay, and probably seeing how the pilot goes
Yeah,
and the trial
yeah,
goes, and then
yeah.
look into that further. Okay, did you look at morning hours at all, or is this'll just be evening?
Based on the survey results, it's the evening is the most
Evening,
popular
most
time.
popular.
The time that people are looking for.
And 2 hours, and so, I guess, when are the hours that the parks are open, or when they close, because they'll change
Sure.
over the fall and the winter?
So parks generally close at dusk, which is an hour after sunset. We would set specific times for that, and in looking at the next 10 months on when that would be, obviously with the time change, it does jump earlier. So I believe the latest time frame is 6:30 to 8:30, and the earliest is 3:30 to 5:30.
Okay, I think that's it for me.
Oh, I have some questions. So first question, I believe during the trial, there would be some sign to indicate area is for unleashed dog.
Correct.
But look at the area of the unleashed dog area. It may be an overlap of the baseball field. So would be the sign also on the baseball field? Would that affect?
Those fields are used for baseball, mainly for practice, for the younger kids. And so we have talked to the sports groups about, a long time ago, we talked to them about the potential of doing this, and they weren't too concerned with it. They are A-frames that we would be putting up, so they are easily movable. But we would monitor and make sure that they're kept in we have it eye-lined by trees on where the line is, and so we know where the perimeter is, and we'd make sure the signs are kept at those spots.
Okay.
That can be moved if there's a game.
Yeah. And actually,
Commissioner, if you could speak up into the microphone.
oh, okay. And during the long weekend, actually after the city agenda, the meeting agenda is public, I got some feedback from my friends and some residents I talked to. They said they didn't know the survey, and it was too late for them to fill in anything. So I just gave a summary of about their concern. So someone said maybe one message.
Sorry, we do definitely want this to be on the record, but this is just for clarifying questions. So we're
Okay.
going to come back to that once we hear from the public.
Oh, okay. So
And then
I'll
definitely bring this
only
back up
ask a
again.
question.
Yeah.
Okay. And so on the sign, I'm just wondering, so if, I believe most of the dog owners are responsible, but if someone, just as you said, they doesn't have control of their dogs, or maybe the dog is too aggressive, or maybe there's some cleanliness issue, would there be a phone number for people to report?
We'll have phone numbers for sheriff, code enforcement, animal control, and if there are excessive abuses of the rules that will be posted, the trial can be stopped anytime during the 10-month period.
And I'm also wondering, would there be any record to track the time of the complaint? And so that means, even if we got some complaint, but for example, maybe they only on the weekend, because most people go to the park at weekend, but on weekdays there's maybe no complaint at all. So would there be any record to track that? So after this trial, if that happens, we can still open the unleashed dog area on weekdays, or maybe only close when most of the complaint happen.
I'm not sure I understand the question. Is it that if it will be used mostly,
I
is
think
it a usage question on as far as more
No,
people?
I think the question, if I understand, Commissioners, is that will you have enough data collected about the compliance on the time so that you can make a decision based on the data? So this is about any compliance. I'm sure that you're going to record. I think this will go partly into the discussion, partly.
Yeah.
I think we should discuss when it comes to, I think this is one of the key areas. This is how you're going to collect the data and how you're going to make a decision based on the data you collected.
Okay.
Either it's on a weekdays or weekends. I think, Commissioner, is that your question? right?
Yes, yeah, I just hope we can reach a win-win situation for dog
Right.
owners
Well,
and
that's,
other people.
yeah, and that's the goal of having the
Yeah,
part-time
even
staff
if-
person there.
Even if there's complaint, maybe this program is still okay at weekend, so we can still keep that. Yeah, that's just my question.
Sure.
Great. Awesome. So seeing as we have no additional clarifying questions, we're going to move on to public comment. A reminder to everyone in the audience, your blue cards are available in the front on the right-hand side. This is going to be the only opportunity during this meeting that you will have to speak on this topic. So please do submit your blue card up at the front on the right-hand side. You will have 3 minutes to, thank you. You will have 3 minutes to speak. We love to hear from everybody who's here, and folks at home, if you want to come by and say a word or two, we would also love that. But it is a hard stop at 3 minutes, so I will have to ask you to sit down once that is completed. I'm going to go in the order that I have here. So first up, we have Carol Miller. Come on up.
Do I have to identify myself in some way?
That would be great if you could say your name and if you're affiliated with any group or not.
With what group?
Any group or any specific neighborhood.
No, what I put on my form. Carol Miller. I live on Columbus Avenue. I'm here as an individual. I was excited about this idea over 10 years ago when I participated as a community volunteer when Julia Lammy led the project. And I was, at the time, safety, as you mentioned tonight, was one of the issues. There are 24 hours in the day. I think during the shortest daylight time, maybe 12 hours, the park would be closed. That leaves 12 hours left. We're talking about 2 hours for the dogs to be off leash. People who are concerned could choose to go at the other 10 hours of the day. So a clock is a great way to monitor whether or not you're around the dogs. Like I said, I thought it was a great idea back then. I read the article in the Cupertino Courier and went to the last of the outreach opportunities at the park, and I'm here tonight to say great idea then, great idea now, and I hope we proceed with the trial.
Thank you. Next, we have Cecil Koch. Sorry, handwriting.
Can somebody help me about putting this on screen? Yeah. Down here?
It's on.
Perfect.
Okay. My name is Cecil Koch. I too worked with Julia 10 years ago, and I was very happy with the conclusion at that time, which is the Mary Avenue Dog Park. You asked about the statistics. I'm a regular user. I'm a dog owner. Okay, I can tell you, lunchtime is probably about 5 dogs. From 4 to 7 p.m., it's probably about 10 dogs. Compared to Saratoga, Mountain View, and Sunnyvale, it's a much smaller number. If you go to Saratoga, you will easily see 20, 30 dogs. No matter it's in the morning, in the evening, doesn't matter. So what I'm trying to say here is we have a wonderful solution, underutilized. And it's because there are some people still want to have the dog off leash. Okay, so the statistic here is to show you the official data here, because you asked about the data. Official number for Cupertino is only 1,007 dogs. The survey response you are seeing right now is not even half of that number. Okay, so keep in mind, we have a lot of unlicensed dog here. The estimation is about 5,000 to 10,000 for Cupertino, depends on who you believe. But officially, you only have 1,007. The second set of data I want to show you is the Sheriff Department statistics. Okay, if you, and by the way, I have this copy available for you. You want the data, we have data. In 2018, 64 dog problems reported in Cupertino, okay? 15 of them are from Jollyman Park. What about 15 out of 64 are from Jollyman Park? That's a real number. And you have that data available with you too. Okay, all right. The next set of data is from the San Jose Animal Control. Again, It's available for your consumption. Okay, 2018 again, 50 dog problems in Cupertino, 6 are from Jollyman Park. Okay, so 3 sets of data for you consider, because I'm a dog owner. I love Mary Avenue Dog Park. It's wonderful, and I encourage all these people, just spend the time there, because you will see that everything you ask for right now is already available, and then we should just use that. My time's up, right?
You have 10 seconds. All right, thank you. Can we actually, excuse me, sir, do you mind passing along this data to Kevin? Thank you. Next, we have Catherine Coe.
Hi, my name is Catherine Coe. I live on Tuscany Place in the Circle, right across from Jollyman Park. I own 2 wonderful rescue dogs, very happy dog owner. But what I'm not happy about is this off-leash area. I've lived there for 27 years, and probably in the last 15 years, we've started to see people who just feel that the rules don't apply to them. And if I can remind you of the Municipal Code 8.03.010, the owner or person with the right to control any dog shall keep such dog under his or her own physical restraint by means of a leash. That's the existing municipal code. That's what every dog owner in this city is bound by. Yet, living next to the park, I can tell you that every single day, I see people with their dogs already running off leash. You showed the area, not a chance. They are already congregating in that area, but all the way over onto the baseball field, onto the diamond itself. It is unfair that these rules haven't been enforced. I can't see you talking about being self-enforcing. They are already not self-enforcing. This is a problem. We have these rules for a reason. And this group of people, some of whom are part of this advocacy group, simply believe that the rules don't apply to them. Now, as a person with disabilities, I'm reluctant to go into the park when there are dogs who are off leash. You talk about young children being afraid, the problem is much greater for older people and people with disabilities. I bring my dogs on a leash, and dogs come from that area and jump up and agitate my dogs. And quite honestly, they're just a little bit stronger than I am. So, it creates problems for me. Switching gears for a moment, the survey, you do not have my answer to the survey because I couldn't answer it. I refused to answer it. I gave input during one of the input times. I sent a comment that that the questions were wrong because there was no option that allowed me to say, I don't care what time, I do not support being at the off-leash time. And that was a required question. So, anyhow, please don't do this. It's not right. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Samir Raheja. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Samir. I've lived in Cupertino for 10 years, and I am part of the dog advocacy group. This is something that we've been working on for 2 years. So first of all, I'd like to thank the commissioner for hearing us. You've heard us before, and our group has tried to work with the commission, bottom up, understand the concerns, and try to address them. We have presented to the council in the past, and last year the council unanimously approved for a survey. There was a survey done last June and July with results very similar to the survey results that were presented today. We heard the results of that in October of last year, and the city council unanimously approved the trial with the condition of another outreach and survey. We want to make sure that we are working with the city to to do the trial, to follow and abide by the rules, and to work with enforcement to make sure that this happens in a safe manner. We are asking for a limited period of time during the day, just 2 hours, so that if people who are not comfortable with dogs don't want to be around dogs, they don't have to be there during that time of day. And we also want to do this in a corner of the park where we don't think other park users normally use the park. We do understand that there is a code, and we are asking the city to implement the trials so that we can consider changing that code to allow dog owners to have that ability to run their dogs off leash in that corner of the park. Community and socialization is a very big aspect of this. As I said, we've been working at this for 2 years. We're a fairly large group. There's a number of us who are here today and who have been at many of these presentations. We have formed our own community because of our dogs, and I think that's important for the city to realize that this is an activity that creates community and safety. And so that's another reason why we're encouraging this. The last time we presented, we talked about other cities who are doing the same, Mountain View, Redwood City. Just recently, Los Altos has started considering a dog off-leash area in their parks. If you look at the agenda for their Park and Rec Commission, this is something that they're talking about. So I'd like Cupertino to do this as well. Finally, like I said, we have been working at this for 2 years. We've been working at the pace of the city. We've done 2 trials. We've done many presentations. We would ask that this please be implemented as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Charlie Hansen.
Hi, my name is Charlie Hansen. I've lived next door to Jollyman Park for over 40 years. We've had several dogs over that time, and we've been regular patrons of Jollyman. For the past 2 years, we've worked hard to get Jollyman to have a pilot off-leash dog area. Hopefully, this pilot trial off-leash area will lead to several other neighborhood parks to be used for DOLA without the fear of the citizens being cited for using their parks. The city conducted survey which was presented tonight is the final step in a very long process. If you would allow me, I could set up the DOLA area tomorrow morning. We could then use our park without the fear of being cited or run off by the sheriff. Number one, the City Council has already approved Jollyman Park for a trial dog off-leash area. The rules of DOLA have been approved are established by the Parks and Recreation Department. I could put up a temporary A-frame signs designating the DOLA area. The DOLA guidelines could be taped to the A-frame signs. Doggy bags are already available in the park, and trash cans are available. So let's not delay this trial anymore. It's been a 2-year process. Let's move forward and let the DOLA trials begin. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Deepa Mahendrakar.
Thank you. I didn't prepare for the speech, and some of the things I might say, hopefully they won't offend anybody, but I'm going to cite history. History is not my strength. But at one point of time, it was not legal for a colored person to sit next to a white person. What happened during the time of Martin Luther King Jr.'s movement was a change that happened even before it became legal. They can't go to school together, they can't go to college, they can't get advanced degrees, they cannot get the same jobs. There were actually not treated first-class humans. But the change occurred before the law caught up, because that is how it works. Freedom is fought for, and then the law catches up. When something keeps coming up, and it has been, particularly this one, in the significance of that, pardon me, I know that's a big thing, and this is just a small ask. In the significance of that, this is probably very minor. But the point I'm trying to make is, the change always occurs, the law catches up later on. And when something keeps coming up again and again and again, you know it's time for a change. So the ask that this advocacy group has is more of a humane ask, because there is no place in Cupertino. Yes, the Mary Dog Park is there. It's small for most of our dogs. And it's dirty for our own personal reasons and for the hygiene of our own dogs and stuff. We prefer not to mention, yes, even if there's 1,000 dog population or 11,000 dog population, one park is not sufficient in the city. What we are asking for is a humane outlet for our dogs to exercise, because right now there's a rule across all of Cupertino, 24/7, dogs have to be on leash, everywhere. That's not humane. We're not treating dogs like our animals. They serve us in every facets of our life. They serve us in the army, they serve us in the police. They are service dogs for blind people. They help the mentally depressed people. Therapy dogs, sorry, yes, thank you, therapy dogs. There are dogs of all kinds, and there are dogs who are just plain companions. The disabled people in Cupertino like to have dogs because it gives them help, it gives them support. What we are asking for as an advocacy group is to give something back to these dogs. They need to exercise just like everybody else. So yes, please implement it as has been promised to us for the past quite a few months. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Ardit West.
Hi, I'm Ardith West. Thank you for this opportunity to hear my concerns. I have lived adjacent to Jollyman Park for the past 40 years, and in particular, I have been pleased the last 10 years to see greatly increased activity occurring in the park all hours of the day, sometimes close to 100 users at one time. I feel the greatest reason for this popularity is the feeling of safety, to use all the desirable features there: children's play equipment, soccer and baseball fields, basketball court, volleyball and badminton games, relaxing in the shade, volleyball, picnicking, book and newspaper reading, birthday and holiday parties, leisure and vigorous walking, dogs on leash, community events, Tai Chi exercises, and general happiness. 10 years ago, as a community, we went through this process to allow dogs off-leash at city parks, and the consensus was to create an off-leash dog park at Mary Avenue. Now we're back at it again, except this time the study has not been professionally presented, and in particular, the survey questionnaire appeared to be intentionally steer the responses to give an end result favoring off-leash trial period. Because of this type of manipulation, some people preferred not to respond to the survey. Going forward at this time, the greatest concern I have about allowing dogs unfenced and off-leash 2 hours after business hours is no one is available to monitor and enforce the rules. As a park neighbor and user myself, and others are either ignored or insulted by off-leash dog owners when we try to remind them of the rules to leash their dogs. Without accountability and enforcement, this will not change, and I fear the use and park enjoyment will decline, except for off-leash dogs and their owners. As discussed 10 years ago, Dog owners should obtain a city permit to use the off-leash dog park, sign an agreement to abide by the rules, along with all the other common elements of cleanliness, noise control, fights, respect for other park users. An immediate response, contact name, and phone number to report violators should be readily available. That, along with a written chronological tabulation of the results of the trial period. If those are not a part of this trial, I urge you to vote against it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Debashis Rao.
Hi, everyone. My name is Debashish. I have been calling Cupertino home for the last 14 years. I live on Rose Blossom Drive, which is a block away. And I have a rescue dog for the last 4 years. And since that point of time, we have been looking for ways to take our dogs, our pet, out for a walk or to give them the entertainment that they need. We both work, so my dog is cooped up inside the house most of the day. And the only time that we have is in the evening. And the only option that we have when we started looking for dog parks was the one on Mary Avenue. Now, given the time of the day, it is not feasible for us to take our car, go that distance, to go to the park. And the park is also not something that is up to par as what I understand. I've been there, it's dirty, and a lot of other people have also voiced their concerns. So we have presented, I'm part of the advocacy group. So as a neighbor of the Jollyman Park, all I'm asking is some decent amount of time that we dog owners, we are responsible dog owners. I mean, somebody said, can we sign an agreement? Yes, I'm all for it if that's what you guys want. But we are responsible dog owners. We will take care of our dogs. My dog is licensed. I did it because I know I want to be a responsible dog owner. So we have presented this case to the council multiple times in the past. And I would really request the council to, commissioners and the council to consider this trial and implement it as soon as possible. Thanks for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Leanne Gillis.
Good evening. My name is Leanne Gillis. I'm a resident of Cupertino. I have been so for over 5 years. I am a recent dog owner of 6 months. And actually, I was not part of the survey and putting this together, and I'm so thrilled that the community there have been people involved in doing so, because since I've just recently become a dog owner, he is such a vital part of our family. And not only that, he gets me out and I meet my neighbors, and I'm with elderly people, I'm with young people, I'm with people I wouldn't generally meet because I work during the day. And on the weekends, I usually go to Jollyman with my daughter, who likes to play at the swings in the play area. And I always have to have my dog stay at home or remain elsewhere because I feel like I have to spend either time with my dog or spend time with my daughter. So anyway, that aside, I was also part of an exciting, or participant of the advisory committee for the Parks and Rec Master Plan. And it got me thinking, hearing some people speak about how there wasn't enough survey or enough input. And I have to say that you guys already did a huge amount of effort on getting information from the public and putting together this master plan that I've seen a proposal on. And the thing that strikes me the most is that the master plan vision was, I quote, "We aspire to create an inspiring, lively, healthy, diverse, and sustainable community by connecting our residents to outstanding parks, nature, and one another." I think by excluding our animals, because they are such a vital participant and family member in our community, is really not providing place for a big part of our community, which is maybe small in stature, but huge in heart. So I just really wish you do consider the trial. I think it's an exciting thing to look at and consider, and hopefully moving forward we will have a permanent place for our dogs and our community to gather and enjoy one another's company and our dogs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, we have Raj, and I'm sorry, I can't read your last name.
Thanks, everyone. Hi, all. I didn't come prepared with all this stuff, so there's a lot of traffic there. So I thought I'll just spend here and help out my friends here to kind of voice my opinion in terms of the off-leash. So I've been here for 7 years in Jollyman. I just live 1 block away from the Jollyman Park, just like my friend Debashish mentioned. And I have a dog. She's 5.5 years old. I just wanted to address only 3 points that that kind of I hear from some of my friends here. The first one is when I hear aggressive dogs and how do you control them and all that, right? That's the first part. So we have, we've had those situations prior, aggressive dogs. We have gently reminded them to kind of, have them, have them on leash or kind of have them first trained and then come back. It was kind of sensitive, but most of the owners have heard that and then they left the dogs. So we've been enforcing those, and everyone voices those opinions. And so we've been doing that, and it's been successful till date. And the second, I wanted to also bring up the point is that we have used Mary Park as well. And there it's much more enclosed, and like what Debashish, my friend, said, it's kind of muddy and all that. And I've heard also dogs that are aggressive there, and there's no voice there at all. And others have to kind of leave that place when aggressive dogs come. So here I see a community here that stands behind it, because I'm a coach at Force and AYSO as well as cricket, all that I play there. Most of the kids, after the game, they come to the dogs, they play with the dogs, and I haven't seen any complaint till now. And some of the dogs that I see, at least 1,500 or something, the number that comes, I haven't seen most of the dogs come down there. And when I've asked some folks, they say, yeah, we have fun walking around the parks. Some prefer, it's a choice that they made. It's not a force or yes or no. It's their choice. But only a few people I've seen are happy, and people who are not happy, they have a choice. They just go walk. There's no compelling reason. I think we're making it as a big compulsion here. It's a conscious decision that one has to make, whether you want to come or you don't want to come. So it's just it's just becoming much of a drama for me from what I see. So just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, if that's the last of the blue cards. Excellent. Oh. Okay, last of the blue cards. Great. So with that, we are closing public comment. So again, that means that we are closing public comment and we're going to be moving to a discussion with the commissioners. Commissioners? Questions, comments, concerns, thoughts?
So,
Go ahead.
so just share some information from residents who didn't have a chance to take the survey. And some had concern that this survey may be too short and it's during vacation time. So some of them, they are not in Cupertino, they didn't know it. And some residents said 1 month may be too short because they didn't pay close attention to dog topics, but they still want to make some comments, but maybe 1 month is too short for them to get the information. So here's some summary. Most of the question is about the enforcement of how to keep the dog in a specific area and how about the cleanliness issue. So I'm wondering, so if they call the sheriff maybe after the park closed, would there be a response for them if there's any issue? Would there be anyone come to the park to give some dog who has bad behavior give their owner a ticket? Is it possible?
Well, yeah, we have certain hours. I need to move closer to my microphone. We have certain hours that our city code enforcement officers are scheduled to work. Recently, they've spent quite a few hours policing the parks for off-leash dogs, but that isn't always the case. They've got a great responsibility and not as many code officers as we would hope that there would be. When they are not in duty or on duty, the sheriff's office then becomes responsible for enforcing things like this. And they do respond. It depends, of course, on priority. And I think that's what our sheriff and our deputies would tell you.
Okay. So the 2 hours, even the 2 hours is after the park closed, there still be someone can, if there's serious issue.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
serious issue.
24
Yeah.
hours a day.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And some of them asking question, is it possible to have different area to separate big dogs and small dogs? So maybe the small dogs may get scared. And some people ask, is it possible to separate weekdays and weekend? So I just share the information to let you know. And the third question is, some dog owner, they said they let their dog to play in several parks in Cupertino, and they noticed that at Jollyman Park, maybe the cleanliness issue is serious than other parks, even before the Unleashed Dog program started. So they just wonder if it's possible to solve this problem. So after the program started, people won't blame everything on this program, because they noticed maybe Jollyman Park, the starting condition is unrelated to the program. Okay, yeah, that's all.
Awesome. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, I have a couple of comments, and maybe I think it's part of the discussion going to. So one of the things is that a lot of supports at the same time concerns, and I think you also listed out those 4 specific areas, safety, and each one of them, right? On that, the questions are, let's start with enforcement. If somebody finds an issue in the off-leash dog, and they find it, and either it's crossing that area, and again, I'm not sure how the boundary is defined so that they know that it is crossing that area, but if it crosses and if they feel unsafe, how do they, I know they can call, but how do they identify the owner and the dog and make sure that this is what it is? Is there anything we are going to enforce for the people who is going to come and play with the dog, of course, off leash? Is there anything we are going to tell them so they can identify? Because if there is an issue, I'm sure that the person who is getting affected will try to be frantic to make a call, but they need to identify who is the person on that is causing that, right? Is there anything in our system, in our thing, do we have anything to enforce the people coming there to identify it?
Well, that's the point of having the part-time staff there during the hours that it's open to monitor what's going on in the dog park.
So it's a responsibility of the part-time staff to identify who it is and then do that. Okay?
If I may, it's, in my experience, it's been much more effective when you're operating off-leash areas to concentrate on compliance versus enforcement. In other words, attempting to educate dog owners, attempting to work hand in hand with with the different dog owners who are running their dogs off leash and participating in order to help educate their neighbors. So we are prepared to print some small cards to be able to hand out to dog users at all times in the parks, and specifically in the evenings, to be able to say, dog owners, it's your duty when your dog does theirs, or something like that. There'll be some clever statements that are used around the country in off-leash areas. But my point is, we hope that we can ask for compliance and work in that regard.
Yeah, I totally respect that. The only thing is, since in a trial period, and we need to be extra cautious, given that it's a trial, that means people are going to look at it and look for any small issues, right? It will be frightening them. So I just wanted to make sure that we do make it, yes, they have to be compliant when it becomes permanent, but I just want to make sure what are the things we are going to ask them and kind of enforcing them, but understand. So follow-up question on that. So based on the community input right now, So licensed dogs. So is there anything we are going to request? People coming there for off-leash, again, a compliance or whatever the requirement, that those dogs have to be licensed. Is it, do we put that in that list as well? Maybe I haven't looked
It is
at
one of the rules.
It is one of the
dog
rules.
park, right.
Awesome. And if it is fenced, the question is, maybe I think I was talking to many of the community members, they approached independently to share their opinions. And one of the things comes out is that definitely people are scared of this one because first time we are trying it out. So I want to make sure that we should call out these all risks, and then we need to make sure that what are the mitigation plans. So we need all the risks, whatever we heard today from in the open communication, oral communication, plus the things, the survey given out. These are all still to be considered, even if it is one person listed out or 100%, doesn't matter. As long as a community member comes back and says that, okay, I'm afraid, I'm scared, we need to consider that. At the same time, I want to make sure that we are not going to make a decision as overall on that one risk, but I think we need to be able to provide a mitigation plan which should be comforting that particular citizen, one person or it doesn't matter 100. So the overall request is that I think as a city, we owe responsibility to every citizen, and I want to make sure all these risks and the safety things we put in there, we need to be very clear on the mitigation plan. Something it says that, yeah, we will allow people on it, but I think maybe much more clear mitigation plan for each of the risks. I think we need to publish it to make sure that the people who are afraid of that have a good feeling that, okay, yeah, they listen to me, and city is really doing it. At the same time, they're trying to enable the other part of the community who's really interested in doing it. And I know I'm afraid, but I think they're taking enough precautionary measures or mitigation plans so that I can watch out, and they are here to help me. So I just want to make sure, I think all of them are coming in that area. So I'll stop there, and I'll allow the rest of the commissioners to provide comments, and I might come back. So thank you.
Great. Thoughts?
So I guess the point here, or what you're asking us to do, is to give input on the trial. Because my understanding is City Council's intent is they've already given their approval. So really, that's what you're looking for, right? So it sounds like to me that you've looked at everything, and this has been going on for 2 years, like some of the people in the audience said. And it happened 10 years ago. I don't know if you, well, I know Jeff wasn't here 10 years ago. I was here 10 years ago, and I was part of that. They looked into it in depth. There was a lot of fear, and it was a compromise. Mary Avenue was a compromise. It wasn't what rose to the top. It was a compromise. So I do believe that the city is doing their due diligence when you say you're going to have a staff member there during those 2 hours. It seems to me, and you can maybe confirm this, is that that staff member will be gathering the data, which then will, and also maybe be able to step in or mitigate things, maybe make the phone call instead of the person that's frightened or what have you. So that's my understanding. I have a bunch of other comments and like, but it may be like my final comments.
Okay.
So, okay. So I'd like everyone to keep in mind that this is a trial, and it's limited to 2 hours a day. Can't hear me? Okay, it's a trial. It's limited to 2 hours a day. City Council's intent was to have this trial go ahead. I personally understand people's concerns with dogs, but it's happening anyway. Dogs are off leash, not just in Jollyman, but in a lot of the other parks. So I think this is an opportunity to restrict that, hopefully, and give these dog owners an opportunity, and also give the city an opportunity to show that they can manage this program. City having staff there during the hours, code enforcement hopefully will do their job during the hours when there isn't off-leash hours. And I know they're trying to do that now, and they can't be everywhere all the time. I also think that there could be a huge educational component to this trial. Like, Jeff said, a little card. The dog owners themselves, can interact with their community, and so the dog owners can learn and the community members can learn about dogs. I just have to say, if you have a large dog that likes to play fetch, it's really difficult to do it when that dog is on leash. And sometimes that's all the dog is interested in is the ball, in a squirrel, or in other dogs, and not necessarily in children or other people on the playground. So anyway, I was just going to say a bottom line, we tried this 10 years ago. I think attitudes have changed. I see this as a grassroots movement. 10 years ago, it was top down. It was the director of Parks and Rec who said we should try this. And there was a lot of controversy, and I would say it was a compromise having the dog park. This time it was a group of neighbors that didn't know each other until they had their dogs, and they got together and they said, hey, we'd really like to do this. We're doing it anyway. Let's try to do it legally. And they came here 2 years ago, and here we are now. So anyway, I just want to say it fosters a sense of community and neighborliness, and I'm in approval of having this trial go forward.
Excellent, thank you. So, couple of things. First, the feedback loop in terms of the actual trial itself. It's great that we'll have a part-time staffer there, as was mentioned before. What would be also good to include on the signage that we have there is a way for people who are not in favor of, or people who maybe didn't get the survey and now are realizing that there is a sanctioned area, to actually have a separate either form and or phone number that they can contact. So including an open opportunity for public comment that isn't just in support of, but also opposed to, I think would be helpful. Many times people feel a little uncomfortable approaching a city official. It can be a little bit intimidating. And especially when you're already too scared to go near dogs, going near the person who's watching the dogs can also be a little bit of a challenge. So we do want to make sure that that remains open. As a whole, I think moving forward with the trial is sound, and I think we will figure out very quickly within a couple weeks' time if it's causing a significant amount of issues for the neighbors and the community members in the area, because a lot of times those issues don't come out until something's been implemented. So having a trial will give us a soft start on a project like this and the opportunity to see if there is pushback and if there isn't. The other thing that I did want to mention is there's no real way to control, unless you like collar the dog and put like an electronic monitor or something on the dog, there's no way to physically restrain a dog in an area that's open. Dogs will go off into other areas. That's just how it is. So that is something that we will need to likely look at if this were to become a permanent issue. It's impossible to keep. Like I didn't grow up with the dog in the house, but I have grown up with the dog across the street that was basically mine. And it's not possible to keep them in an area. You just can't unless you're physically playing goalie at the other end for an extended period of time. So I am interested to see if there are other solutions to creating borders for these dogs, either a sound barrier or something to that effect that we can use, so that maybe other community members will feel more comfortable knowing that there's an actual barrier. And of course, we don't want to put in a hard, fencing thing, but I'm sure that I can't imagine that there isn't a tech solution to this. And then the last component is in a couple years ago, there was a dog that was off leash in Linda Vista that attacked a small Bichon and killed it. And our municipal code addresses potentially dangerous dogs in Section 8, but for whatever reason, the city, the code enforcement, let's see, I'm reading back through an email from a number of years ago. The city said that because there was no prior for that dog, that it would be allowed to stay with the owners, and it would be allowed to stay with the owners in public places. Now, this is an individual example where we did have a municipal code that was supposed to support this, and the city just basically turned a blind eye to a dog that, once you talk to a bunch of neighbors, mentioned that this particular dog was very aggressive, and another dog got killed because of it. And so I just want to make sure that as we progress, for not only the protection of humans, which to me is paramount because that's my value system, but also to make sure that we are protecting other dogs, and that we are very strict in the way that we handle any kind of physical aggression that a dog shows, not just to humans, because humans of course, but also to other dogs, and that there is a very clear code of dog conduct that we could create that said, these are, just like we have in schools, this is zero tolerance. They are either permanently on leash or no longer allowed in a public place, or these are 2 strikes, you're out type of rule. If I would like to see something that's formalized like that, so that dog owners know, for both people who don't own dogs and who do, and then also between 2 dog owners, because it can potentially, and has in the past, been a conflict. And it wasn't resolved in a way that I think was particularly fair. So I just want to make sure that that becomes clear. The city council has already approved the trial. So I think that, like I said, it's a good opportunity to give it a shot. The voices will arise on either side once it's in place. So I'd recommend that we proceed with this trial.
A couple of more comments. What's the plan to monitor? I think this goes back to the original question from the commissioner. So on how do we plan to monitor those incidents or the reports or any such things? And how do we plan to update general community? That's one. But 2, do we have a regular feedback session to the dog owners who uses it to make sure that, okay, because sometimes they may not be aware of it. People come in today, they may not have an incident, but they may not come tomorrow, but we need to feedback to them saying that these are the incidents happened. We just wanted to make sure that you educate, so be cautious to these 2. Is there anything in our system already there to provide that feedback loop to them? One is collecting it and then providing feedback to the general community as well as for the dog owners, because it's important, because I have a big dog too, so I run around, and then if I have somebody has any issues, then they come back and tell me, I said, okay, I didn't know that. Or if I learn from some other dog owners that caused issue, maybe my dog might cause that, so I be aware of it. So I want to make sure if there is none, I think we should implement. Again, this is going back to make sure that the others in the park are comfortable, or scared or afraid of it, or comfortable enough. So if it's not there, I would like to make sure that that's there, because always educating them on a frequent way will ease the pain or the fear from the rest of the people.
Commissioner, that's an excellent suggestion. We've already planned to collect the data. And just to be clear, we do have part-time staff that will be asking to be at the park. I don't anticipate that they'll be there every night and every hour through the year, but for a majority, for a good amount of the time, they'll be there. Working with the, I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself by calling it a friends group, or the neighbors, or the folks who are interested in helping. We are going to call out for assistance to gather folks that regularly walk their dogs, so that we can create a system of compliance. At that point, once we know that we have data to share, it'll be very easy for us to put a sign out in the way that we did earlier, and inform folks that there will be an opportunity to learn what's happened so far, as well as, of course, we've got a web page where we will be posting the information. But that's an exceptional goal. That's I think really important. I agree that we need to have that feedback. The owners need to have that feedback, and it's incumbent upon us to provide it as best as we can.
Okay, and the last point, and before I let the staff who are going to be there, hopefully that person is also trained to some extent. I just want to make sure the staff who is going to be there at that time of it also got some training on handling the dogs, in case sometime it comes towards them and I just want to make sure that, based on my experience with dogs and going around all the parks, it'd be better the staff also to get some basic training on that too. It's important because sometimes you never know how do you handle dogs too. Sometimes it'll be important. Each dog will be different, and if they are the ones sitting there and going around and watching, it'll be good to have them trained as well.
Yeah.
It's important for the safety of them to just to be aware.
Yeah, and again, just to be clear, the responsibility for the actions of the dog, of course, rests with the owners. And
Owners,
one
agree.
of the rules is that the owners have voice control over their dogs. We think that's probably the best tool for compliance. However, again, our staff member will be there to answer questions, will be there to document, and will be there to remind people that the rules are the rules. There's one part that historically with off-leash areas is a challenge, and that's that people get out of their cars with their dog and they see the area, across the park, and don't always keep their dog on a leash till they arrive in the off-leash area. That's the kind of compliance that I think is really critical if this trial is going to succeed. And we'll do everything we can to ensure that happens.
Yep, thank you. I think, as I said, I do support the trial, but that make sure that we have all these mitigation plans are laid out and cleared, so that the ambiguity is not there at all. So the rest of the community feels so comfortable that, okay, hey, looks like, and you never know, a lot of those folks may be falling back into that, okay, I do support. Thank you.
Yeah, and I forgot to share a last piece of information. So to make this trial a success, some residents said maybe if we only keep the responsible dog owner in this program, maybe the program can run more smoothly. But how to tell if the dog owner is responsible? It's very hard. So they don't know if it's possible, but they just said maybe we can give the dog who can go to the unleashed area, maybe build a registration system so the dog can have a tag that if the dog owner just pay a small amount of money, maybe $20 per year, and their dog can get a tag. So in the unleashed area, you can see which dog gets the certificate and which dog doesn't. They don't know if it's possible, but they just said if we can only keep the responsible dog owners, that may be helpful for others.
Right, and that might end up being a conclusion of the trial, that if there are some minor situations, maybe that might be a compromise. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But I know that has been used in some areas across the country, but typically it's the, how do I say this? It isn't used very often.
I was going to say, I think it's incumbent upon the owners of the dogs to sort of self-police. And my guess is that they want this trial to succeed. And dog owners know when their dogs are not good to go out and mix with other dogs. And so maybe they will keep that dog on a leash, go elsewhere. So I'm assuming that that's what this advocacy group is trying to do, is to really self-police and make sure that it's a successful program.
Great. So the final additional pieces, it would be, and this was mentioned in one of the public pieces of public comment, it would be good to provide information on how to license your dog. I actually think the person who is checking to make sure, the staff person who's checking should also verify that all of the dogs that are at the park are licensed, and if there is a way that we can either provide this information for, I would say, a 2-week period of the first 2 weeks of the trial, and then after that we bring in code enforcement for the dogs that aren't licensed. We need to do that. If there's more than 1,007 dogs, then that's a problem because that's not recorded and we need that to be licensed. The second thing is I think that should also have a comparable impact in terms of any penalty if the dog or if the dog owner does operate beyond the bounds of the trial. So if the dog is unlicensed and the dog owner does not follow the rules of the trial, then their penalty should exceed that of a person who has a licensed dog, because the licensed dog owner has followed the rules. Or not the licensed dog owner, the dog owner with the licensed dog has followed the rules. The licensed owner. The next component is the Mary Avenue Dog Park. It was made reference that it's not actually used very much. And so if there's a way that we can have somebody either track key hours of time of whether or not there are dogs there, because candidly, if there aren't dogs there and there are more dogs at Jollyman than there are at Mary, real estate in Cupertino is expensive. So if that is not being utilized, I know that was a fight a number of years ago, but maybe it's no longer a fight that needs to be had now. So if that's not a utilized park for dogs, maybe it doesn't need to be a park for dogs. So, if it is underutilized, maybe some people just don't know about it. So I think it would be great to see if there's any way to get data on that Mary Avenue Dog Park. Awesome. I think, do you have any other final things for us in terms of final questions or anything, or have we given you plenty to chew on?
You've given me plenty to chew on. I just want to remind those in attendance that if we are going forward with the trial, it does not begin until October 1st. So it does not start tomorrow with A-frames out in the park.
Excellent. Sorry, we are done with the public comment section of this. But you can definitely write a letter and send it to us, and we'll be able to include it in all of our awesome packets of hundreds of pages that we read. Let's go ahead and move on. I think you've heard quite a bit from us, so thank you very much for all of your efforts. We know that this is a hot topic in the community, and also special thanks to both the neighbors, the advocacy group, and also the folks who came out to say that having dogs in the community off leash is just something you're not comfortable with. All these voices are valid. We thank you for taking time to share them with us. We hear you, and we'll look forward to continuing this conversation going forward. Thank you.
And we will be coming back to you with results of the trial on several occasions, and we'll make sure that we publish and do what we can to get the word out to everyone in the community that those opportunities for input, again, will continue until we get through to July, when, since it is a trial, we'll be using this criteria that Jenny mentioned earlier to make a determination, and then to go back to council to change the municipal code if indeed the trial is a success. For now, October 1st, or if we can get it done a little bit earlier, we certainly will. We need to fabricate signs and things like that. So,
excellent. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. All right, moving on. Seeing as we have no additional business, we're going to the staff and commission reports portion of this. Director, do you have a report for us?
I will be brief tonight. What I want to do is just to give you a quick update. We'll be coming back with much more, but I wanted to update you on this amazing summer that we've had. Our participation in some areas has held steady. Our participation in some areas has fallen a little, and in some cases has exploded. And so what I'd like to do is just talk to you just real briefly. Things like summer camps held pretty steady this year. The teen center was pretty close. It was down a little bit compared to last year. You can see that there are things like sports memberships and all, but in red, I've made or tried to highlight that our golf rounds increased this year, which we're really excited about, that opportunity. We are underway, I think as you're aware, of looking for opportunities and options that we'll be taking to council and bringing to you about what we can do with the golf course in the future, because it is running at somewhat of a deficit financially. But it's really good news to see that golf rounds have gone up. Swimming at the Blackberry Farm pool, you'll notice that the numbers went up slightly, and we really are about at capacity for that little pool. That's a lot of swimmers. One of the exciting things was during the first year of the trial of the summer events, as you notice, we had about 5,500 or so participants. This year, that number exploded to 16,000. Which was somewhat what we expected to see, some kind of an increase. Generally, I would think maybe a third more in year two. Didn't expect to see a 300% increase. And a lot of that is, of course, attributable to the staff and folks that really worked very, very hard to ensure that those activities were quite, quite well done and very popular. Outdoor fitness participation, this is the free Zumba classes and such. It's a small number. We didn't host very many, but we went from 198 to 383. And this in and of itself is telling that we need to develop a plan for next summer for a whole bunch more of these. That the model of free activities out in the parks is really, really effective. One particular event, I think, had 80 people dancing Zumba right out here in front of the community hall one evening, and it was on a Wednesday evening, and just absolutely amazing, interesting. Outdoor arts participation, we changed the focus on these, and it grew considerably. Environmental education appears to have been similar, but I think there's what we call the corridor stroll that occurred. That was actually one of the summer events, so we didn't want to count it twice, but it really could be counted as an environmental one. Swimming lessons went down, and that's something we're going to work on really hard. We feel it's a real priority to have all of the children in our community pool safe. However, darn economy. We had staff hired and had everything in place to have a similar program as the previous year, but then lost some key staff just within 30 days of the program. And so we just couldn't anticipate that and weren't able to meet all the needs we needed to. Senior center participation held pretty steady. The sports center class participation went up just a little, so you can see, that our summer, was very busy. We did a lot of things, and we're going to be, looking at what we can do and reevaluating going into next summer. So. The pool is now just operating on the weekends. It closes, I think, on the 29th. We have a week later, we have the Pooch Plunge, which is a lot of fun, especially after tonight's discussion. And then the harvest days, and then we're right into the holidays again. It just keeps coming and keeps happening. So anyway, that's the sum total of my report for this evening, with one exception, and that is for the last couple of years, we've very much enjoyed the opportunity to work with Kevin Koo, who's here in the front. I don't know if the camera can shine over on him or not, but he has helped to maintain the logistics of the commission and done quite a bit. He was recently promoted, and
awesome, congrats.
We have hired a replacement for him, and
come on.
She's anyway. There's Kevin on the screen. Whitney Zeller will be here on board within a couple of weeks, and Kevin will be transitioning her over the course of a couple of meetings. But I think you're really going to like her. Kevin isn't going to go away. He'll still be here to help with different projects, but you'll get to know Whitney, and I think you'll really enjoy her. So.
Wow.
That's the sum total of my director's comments tonight.
Excellent. I just wanted to highlight really quickly the summer participation events. You were able to do outreach just by numbers. I know some of these are probably repeat from people who go, but if we counted each of these as a unique, that's 27% of Cupertino. That is more direct relationships with Cupertino participants than I think any program in the city has had ever.
I just marked the same. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable to see.
That's
If it was just
really
three
exciting.
times, wow, even the previous one, that's
So,
amazing.
yeah, I just wanted to say that's an amazing job. It was, I remember when you first came in, this was definitely one of the big priorities that you had. So props, well done to you and to your team.
Thank you. Remember, our goals have been to connect people to other people in the community. This program does that. Connect people to their parks, and this program does that as well. So,
Again, I just want to second it. Exactly. So I think connecting the community is one of the top goal for the city in general, for everyone. I think this looks like this department is doing much bigger than what it is for entire city. This is awesome. I mean, the statistics is unbelievable. Thank you. And congrats, Kevin. I don't know what we did. You don't want to be with us now? I know you got promoted. It's great. But thank you. Congrats.
Amazing. So let's go ahead and, if that's it for director reports, do we have any fun key updates that we haven't heard throughout the meeting from commissioners?
I do. Besides going to additional neighborhood events and to the dog off-leash outreach at Jollyman, I did attend the mayor's meeting yesterday, and let's see if I'm prepared to tell you about it. So what came out of that library commission, these are the things that rose to the top. I'm sure that happens to you when you go to these meetings too. You know, I don't want to say everything, but there was an update on well, it wasn't really an update, but there is a task force that's working on library expansion. So they reported on that. The Teen Commission is having a Cupertino event to raise money or awareness for mental health. It's a mental health event for teens, and that's on September 21st at City Hall. And the Sustainability Committee they have a speaker series, and on September 23rd, this woman named B. Johnson.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, who talks about living sustainably. She's coming to speak, and I have the flyer somewhere.
September 23rd, you said?
Yeah, September 23rd. I can see if I can find the flyer. So that, yeah, I'm not going to be here because that sounds really interesting to me. Fine Arts is doing a Young Artist Award, and they're looking for submissions, and their theme is What Makes Me Smile. And they're trying to get teens off of social media and their gadgets and use this theme and do something more hands-on and submit it. Also, they had a budget for art in unexpected places that was approved, and what they're looking at are 2 public walls, and I think one of them might be in the Stevens Creek corridor somewhere, like on a fence. So that would be a good collaboration with that commission. And then, of course, there's the Bike Ped Commission, and their big thing is the Regnart Creek Trail, which is coming before City Council on September 17th. But the biggest takeaway for me, and I wanted to share, was a lot of the commissioners were not aware of the neighborhood events, and that really surprised me. I was really surprised. And they were looking around, like some of them nodded and seemed to know, but others were like, oh, I didn't even know about that. And so I personally don't think it's because staff in the city hasn't done the outreach. I think it just proves the point that sometimes if people aren't interested in something or they're really not paying attention, they don't know about things. So it takes a concerted effort for people to pay attention. I think the city staff's doing a great, outreach. So, but that'd be something to keep in mind for next year.
Anisha, yeah, I want to give you some, it's not a report like where I attended it, but a lot of people reached out. And I wanted to, I'll talk to you and Jeff to see how we can get an agenda or whatnot. So the 2 topics, I think many people sent a separate email or reached out, is that one is on the Regnart Trail. The second one is on the Rancho, the pool. Current status of only 2 board of directors are currently available. 3 of them resigned, the current state, and they were asking us what's the city stand and what it is. I couldn't give any answer to it. I just listened to the community members, because they just reached out and say, hey, you're in a park and rec commission. Okay, what do you plan to do? I just listened to it. I said, I'm going to share it with the chair and the director and see you will get. So I will forward some emails or some other things I received so that you can help.
Okay, Chair, I don't know whether it's okay or not. I can give you a quick update still tonight on both of those, if you'd like. Now
This will
is,
be in addition to your director's report.
as an addendum to the director's report. Just so that you know, on the Ragnart Creek Trail, that is coming to council, I believe, on the 17th. And so council will be entertaining ideas on it. I think that's the best comment I can make. On the Rancho,
I told them too, but I didn't know beyond that.
on the Rancho Rinconada, you'll be receiving at the end of November, you'll be receiving a draft public report from a consultant from what's called the LAFCO, the Local Area Formation Committee. What they're going to do is look at all the opportunities and options there for what happens to that special district. Unfortunately, they are only with 2 board members right now, and our city would be in line first to appoint additional temporary board members, except that the entire district that is Rancho Rinconada does not exist within Cupertino city limits. There are 2 parcels that belong to the city of San Jose. So it falls on Santa Clara County to provide those positions or to appoint. In the meantime, we'll know in November what the board's original or initial study is that their consultant did. They'll be coming to you, I think, on January, if my memory serves me correct. I want to say it's the 7th, but I can't remember the exact date. There'll be a joint meeting of City Council and this commission to hear their consultant give their final report. Or not final report, but the status of their report. That will include what will the city need to invest if the city decides to take on that pool. We don't even know what the conclusion is from the consultant and from LAFCO. Once LAFCO on the 4th of December makes their initial recommendation, then that will tell us a little bit of what we'll be hearing. We've been cooperating with them and providing them information, but currently, until council, has an action, we don't have anything to take. We don't have anything to take a position on yet.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to share information about some community activities. We all know this week is last week of our great summer event. So on Friday and Saturday night, there's a movie in park, I think. Yeah, the last time. What I want to share is on Sunday morning at 9 o'clock at Memorial Park, there will be a community activity about ride for diabetes. So just people ride bicycle to raise money for cure of diabetes. And as I heard, the mayor and the vice mayor will all join. And I also registered. So just I'm looking forward to this exciting program.
You just ride within the park? Or no?
Yeah, actually there are 3 routes. The shortest one is a 3-mile route around the park, and there are longer one with 15 miles and 25 miles.
I will be there for the 25-miler.
Wow!
Mm-hmm.
Wow! So your leg is okay now.
It will be by then.
Excellent, excellent. All right. Well, with that, seeing as we have no other updates, I'm going ahead and adjourning this meeting at 8:34.